Hi, my name is Michael Rhodes, and today I'm talking about brain hemispheres. Now, I am not a scientist and I haven't made a study of brain hemispheres, but I have read a bit about them and I have used my own observation. And it becomes very apparent, and it's well known today, that the two hemispheres of the brain work very differently. The left hemisphere is much more devoted to academics, it's more devoted to fear and survival and aggression, and it would support the idea of war. You fight for something. The left brain can understand this. Whereas the right brain is very, very different. The right brain is far more holistic. It doesn't see us as bodies, it sees us as energy moving through life, almost like liquid energy moving through life. And there's a brilliant book that I read on this, My Stroke of Insight. At the moment I can't think of her name, I should have checked that out. But it's a brilliant book written by a brain researcher who had a stroke. And so her insight into this was very much more than just an academic. Jill Bolt Taylor, that's her name. I had it on the tip of my lips, but it wouldn't come. Her name is Jill Bolt Taylor. I recommend that book if you want to know anything about this. And so I watch, for instance, I used to do counselling. I no longer do that. I prefer conscious conversations. But in my counselling time, I would often get a couple, and the couple would talk, and it was so obvious and apparent. One was left brain dominant, very much so, and the other one was right brain dominant. If they were both whole brain dominant, a couple seldom had problems, because whole brain is a place of balance. I would suggest certainly you could live life with difficulty, but more beautifully if you were right brain dominant, but balance is what this is all about. So there is we're not talking here of any criticism of brain dominance. We're talking about it doesn't work. It doesn't allow for a balanced life to be very left brain dominant. And about, I think the figures are something like a percentage of 82 to 84% of people, certainly in the Western world, are left brain dominant. And they see things in a certain way. We live in a left brain dominant world. That's very obvious to me as a right brain dominant person who's moved much more toward balance, but your dominance still stays there. And so I made a list of these traits that we have that are left brain, right brain, and I'm going to go through it fairly slowly. I'll put my glasses on for this. I'm going to go through it fairly slowly to give you an idea so you can check yourself, and you'll see in your partner, not just yourself, and in your friends. You'll find, for instance, that left brain dominance tends to like left brain dominant people. On the other hand, they love to argue. They love to get into long arguments, and I know a few retired people who love to argue, whereas me, I won't be involved in an argument. I walk away because right brain dominance doesn't argue. It just doesn't do that. It's just not a behaviour it gets into. It doesn't look at it and say that's wrong or bad. It just doesn't get involved. Like, I don't jump out of aeroplanes for a thrill, even if I've got a parachute on. I don't do that. But one of my sons, that's what he did 1,500 times. He jumped out of... So we do different things for different thrills. We do different things for different motivations. And a husband and wife that don't understand each other generally have a different brain hemisphere dominance and never really realize that, because today, yes, I'm sure you know all about it, but a very little while ago there was no understanding of that at all. I look back at my father and mother. My mother was right brain dominant, my father was left brain dominant, and although they had a good relationship, there were a lot of times that they just couldn't relate to each other, and it's a very common thing. I'm blessed in that my wife Carolyn, she is right brain dominant and I'm right brain dominant. The problem with that is we both get lost together because right brain dominant is not good at road directions, Whereas if you have a left brain partner, you'll find they give you the directions of where to go. Unless, of course, you've got a GPS. But it wasn't long ago we didn't have those either. And so left brain is very much what we think. Think. That's left brain. What we think. A lot of that thinking then tends to go negative. That's all left brain. Whereas the right brain is what we feel. It's much more feeling oriented. Left brain goes with language and talking. So clearly I'm using my left brain to articulate. I'm using it to take my language and do well with it. So I'm using left brain here, whereas right brain is more poetry and singing. And a lot of left brain dominant people love singing because they're in the right brain while they're singing. They moved hemispheres, and that's a beautiful shift for them. And they like poetry. And I have known people who love poetry, and if you read them a piece out of a book, a page out of a book, they're bored because it doesn't work for them. They like the poetry, the cadence, the pace and cadence, the flow of words in a different way. There is even something spasmodic dysphonia, where you lose your voice. It's a thing between the brain and the throat. And there are people, one man, for instance, was a radio announcer, and suddenly overnight he had spasmodic dysphonia and he lost his ability to speak, but he could sing his words. And so if he lightly sang it, he could sing. It used a different pathway in the brain. Another one would turn it into poetry. And so he could if he turned his words into a flow of just vaguely rhyming, would say rhyming more than poetry, then he could speak. But if he tried to speak without the rhyme, he couldn't. So the brain is very complex, and it's interesting. The left brain focuses on the mortal personal self, very much about me, whereas the right brain is about the immortal self, is about the metaphysical me. The right brain is very comfortable with that. In fact, with Jill Bolt Taylor, when she lost her left brain abilities and was left with only the right brain, it was almost as though she had become enlightened. But she hadn't, because so many of the qualities of enlightenment are in the right brain. They're just so recessed. They just never dominate in so many people. When you consider that about 85% are left brain dominant, that's 15% of people left to be whole brain and right brain. And people say everybody who's left-handed is right brain dominant. That's not so. About 60% of them will be right brain dominant, but it doesn't mean it's automatic. Now the left brain focuses on work, mind busy. Busy. It loves the mind to be busy. Whereas the right brain is relaxed, the mind is quiet. And so left brain people meditate to try to relax the brain, and so they can be in a quiet space. Right brain people find that easy and natural. I found it very easy. I couldn't understand why people kept saying it's so difficult to have your brain quiet. To me, it wasn't difficult at all. And it isn't to Carolyn. And so we're different. Now, left brain is masculine and yang, whereas the right brain, of course, is feminine and yin. And again, whole brain balances those. And so it's always about the whole brain. Reasoning and logical is the left brain. Everything is reason and logic. It's got to be logical, otherwise there's no reason. Joke. And so we go across to the right brain, intuitive and insightful. I've lived from my intuition. My insight, I trust it completely. I don't need to go and check it out on Google to find if research will validate it, because I trust it. I've always trusted it. And so when you trust it, trust goes very much with the right brain. Left brain does not trust at all. That's an interesting one. The left brain is isolation and separation. And today we have terrible problems of depression and anxiety. And those people feel themselves to be more and more isolated. And so when they're therefore confined to their homes, they can't go out, because they're in quarantine, healthy people in quarantine, how stupid is that? But that's the way they're playing the game. Then they suffer acutely because they already feel isolated and separated. And this is part of their depression. And so we have real serious problems with that, which hasn't really been revealed yet. And so the right brain feels connection and oneness. And so if a person is isolated and put on their own with right brain dominance, they won't feel alone. They'll feel perfectly connected with life and everything that's going on. Left brain is very much linear time oriented. Linear time. Whereas the right brain, all time is now. It's not so right, it's not so time oriented. I'm not saying that's an excuse to be right, or late at appointments. All I'm saying is right brain does not have the same relationship with linear time. It relates more through spherical time, where all time occupies the same moment. So left brain sees life as isolated events. When I wrote one of my books, A Glimpse of Something Greater, I took a whole lot of incidents out of my life and made one book of them. And they sort of showed how I struggled on my path. But as I did it, I began to see toward the end that all these isolated events connected. Every one was just a continuity, but they were isolated by years. And so I saw isolated events. But the right brain that saw it, all events are connected. Everything is one. There is no separate events. The left brain is very much the sum of parts. So when somebody says to me, oh, I get it, it's like you've given me another part of the jigsaw puzzle, I smile and think, okay, left brain. It doesn't work that way. The right brain says that all is one, there are no parts. Incredibly different. The left brain, head laughter. If you've seen the movie Home Alone, you know, there's a little boy defending his home and two idiots who try to break in. And the whole movie is the terrible things that happen to them. That is very much head laughter. Whereas when you laugh at something that touches you deeply, that's heart laughter. That's the right brain. And so we go through. Left brain, happy, sad. Right brain is not so much happy, sad. It's just life in the moment. It doesn't look at happy or sad, etc., etc. And so there's a whole long list I've hardly touched of what it is left brain. Left brain organizes information. Right brain embraces information. Huge difference between organizing information and embracing. Balance does both. It organizes and embraces. Embracing information. When I'm metaphysically traveling, there's a lot of information that I can't organize. I don't understand it. But if I embrace it, then as I grow in consciousness, so it begins to filter through and I get intuition and insight into exactly what that was. So embracing information is so essential. Left brain is very much doing to, whereas right brain is being with. So a gardener goes out and he's either doing to the garden or he's being with the garden. And the gardener who's being with is very much the green thumb. They can grow anything because they're not doing to it. So when you take that life, that is something you've got to organize your way through, instead of just let life unfold with you. Left brain is anger and aggressive. Right brain is all peace and harmony. Left brain, what I want. Right brain, what I have. The left brain is argumentative. Right brain doesn't argue, it's easygoing. Left brain finds it difficult to give. Right brain, there's nothing to forgive. I simply accept. Left brain has a need to control. Right brain, live and let live. And there's many of these in between. So I will simply go on to increase your right brain activity, singing. Singing for fun and joy, but not a disciplined choir, but singing. And if you've got a happy, outgoing choir, yes, a choir. Laughter yoga. Walking in nature, not walking along, oh look, there's a yellow-winged kookaburra. I don't think they exist. A blue-winged kookaburra. Oh, there's a, what type of wren is that? That's not walking in nature. That's an identity parade in nature. Walking in nature, feeling a sense of wonder and awe, as if you were 3 years old. Gardening, particularly if you're being gardener. Fun, just having fun. Poetry, very much. Daydreaming, allowing yourself to sit down and daydream and imagine. Playing with children, they will bring you into the right brain. Reading fantasy, that's good because it's completely illogical. Relaxing, just relaxing. Left brain people find relaxing difficult, and their brain says, should be doing something. My brother, he said, I don't like relaxing. There's always something I should be doing. Typical left brain. Not bad or wrong, but that's left brain. Being conscious, you have to be whole brain for that. Trusting, such a good quality. Smelling flowers. I was with a person in Baden-Baden in Germany. Constantine and I spent an hour and a half smelling our way through an acre of roses. We were so dizzy from taking deep inhaling the rose, we nearly fell over when we finished. People were staring at us like, what are they doing, those two? We were smelling the flowers. And stroking animals, and of course the best one of all, consciously choosing love.